Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you this bright Tuesday morning. Matters Social, we take it away right now. My name is Ann QT, and of course, with my beautiful panel, ladies and gentlemen. Karibuni tena sana, mkoaje? Good to see you, Bobby. I feel like nilikuona last month. Why do I feel like I haven't... Nimekumiss.
Tumeonana before last month. Nikumisiana.
Tulikuwa tu nawe last week.
Yeah,
good to see you, Bobby.
I love your makeup. I love the blue. You look happy.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
You feel good.
Of course I do. It's a beautiful morning.
I love how everyone usually really dresses up for this show.
I know, right?
Fashionistas hapa.
Hata Kenny Libidi amekacha.
Haya.
Amekacha buda. Good to see you, Ken. Ukoaje?
Mimi niko poa. And yourself? It's pay week, so...
Uko busy, you're a very busy man this week, eh?
Yeah, our salaried.
Nikushike mkono this week.
Statutories will catch up with you. But it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Ken. Uko salama?
Kabisa nashukuru.
Hapo sawa kabisa. CJ, we missed you last week.
Yeah.
You bailed out on me, man. You bailed out on me.
Well, it's a place where you choose two people you love.
Yeah, I know, I get it. And maybe some of the things that we'll be talking about.
Right.
And of course, May has been a month that we're talking about mental health awareness. And I think the first week we talked about toxic environment at the workplace. And we brushed a bit about toxic employers. And I saw the feedback that we should really talk about it. It's like we touched a nerve on social media. So we really need to go deep into toxic employers. And we need to talk about how do you get out, you know, because CJ really got to me that the last week Batwani was talking about you need to know your worth, you need to know what you're worth, and you need to walk away when it's necessary. But CJ, how am I able to do this? I'll just go straight into it. Like, you were talking about walking away from a toxic environment, toxic employers, but the big question is, how do I do that? Because, of course, I need a plan A to Z. I need a plan. I can't just wake up one day and just decide to walk away. So how do I really go about this if I'm in a toxic environment?
You know, the fixation with having another plan is making a lot of people lose more than they can ever regain. Because if this particular environment is breaking you down, draining you emotionally, hurting you, and bringing you nearly to a meltdown, by the time you walk out and say that you now have a plan B, what version of you is going into the plan B? We don't think about that you can leave some place when you are sure of another place, but then the you that is going to the next place is nowhere near the you that was in the former place. You're a shell of yourself. So if you're ever going to make it in the future, you need to be alive. And not just that you're living, but you're functional. You're emotionally, mentally, intellectually, physically stable. So at the point where you feel that this place is detrimental to yourself, you're either having a breakdown, meltdown. When you feel that you can't cope, even if you have no plan B, this is now matters of your health. You need to step out. Because you need to be alive enough to meet your next employer, next opportunity, or even if you're going to go into business. You don't want to go into the next and in about a month, you start asking for leave, or they feel your CV and your performance do not match what they were told about you is higher than what they see from you. So sometimes we don't need to have a plan B. Sometimes the only plan is, I need to be well. So it depends on the levels of toxicity that you are facing. But in the cases where, you know, you're well enough to walk out, do it respectfully. You know, meet Ken in the HR office. Don't ghost. Don't ghost. Do it respectfully. Because you see, one, this place gave you an opportunity. So no matter what it is, be grateful for the good. There'll always be the bad and stuff, but just be grateful for the good. I love having proper exits, no matter what it is. Just appreciate the fact that you were given an opportunity, it didn't work. It's like a relationship. Like, well, we fell in love, it didn't work. We don't have to be enemies. I just need to walk away. It didn't work, maybe it will work for you with somebody else. it will work for me with somebody else. So be respectful enough to talk to them, let them know you need to move on, serve notice. A lot of things may change within that point because it depends on the maturity also of the leadership of the place that you're working in. Some of them become even more toxic because you want to leave, but you do your part. Remember, every stage of your life is a record for the next, and you don't want ever to have a bad record coming in the future, and you never really know when those records show up. They mostly show up when you have your highest and biggest opportunities. That's when somebody will come up and say, but this is how QT left this place. So you are protecting yourself. It's not even for them, for you. You're trying to keep a clean record that you will respectfully say, I'm leaving. Whatever I need to do to make this smooth, I'm going to do it. Give them the time. Allow them to react, whether well or whether they will react in a bad way. Because you can't control, it's again like a breakup. You can't control how the other person will react. You can't say, you know, I didn't expect you to do that because I've told you, so you should be calm. No, if they throw tantrums, that's fine, but you have done your part. And then when it gets to the time of now, you need to depart, just depart and don't ever do evil again to that particular place. Just move on smoothly. You're preserving yourself even as you leave.
And maybe Ken, trying to understand it from the employer's point of view. Maybe of course you have employees at your workplace and all that, and you really know that an employee is putting in the work, they're putting in the effort, but maybe from your backside you're not able to like financially add anything on top of them. Maybe an employee comes to you and says, hey, I feel like I'm being overworked, I feel like I'm doing a lot of work, and I feel like it's about time you give me a promotion, or it's about time you give me a raise. And from your point of view, you're like, the company is not able to, our funds are tight. So how do you handle that from your point of view, so that you don't make the employee feel like they're not appreciated or they're being taken for granted? How do you handle that from your perspective?
Interesting question. You know, when you feel overworked in a place of work, the best compensation is not always a salary increment. And this is the mistake that we make, thinking, I do so much and earn so less. Sometimes it's not about the figure that you're making. It's about the satisfaction first you're getting for yourself. And also, are you able to rest enough? Don't stay in a place where you'll be overworked and you do not even have time for yourself. If time is not created for yourself, then that's a sign of toxicity. Not all companies can afford a pay rise, but they can afford something else on the side, a benefit. And this is an interesting question we ask during interviews. Besides your salary, what other benefits do you enjoy from your place of work? Could it be a vacation? I know there are places that offer people paid vacation. Not just for you, and also for your family. Could it be, take for instance, there's a time I was struggling where I'm working. Finding parking was an issue. And I would complain to my employer every time. Remember, I'm the HR, But I would go to the MD and say, I am really struggling because coming every morning and looking for parking, the company went ahead and got me a parking slot that I know even now when I leave this studio, I will not go and struggle. So it's about sitting, listening, and understanding. Sometimes employers have a quicker no when it's time for salary negotiation. It's a quicker no as opposed to any other thing. But do you have any other options that you're looking at? Could you even maybe say, I work 8 to 5. Give me just 1 hour off because I am a new parent. I'm unable to leave work at 5 because of traffic and get home before my kids sleep. So if you could allow me to leave an hour early. Those are negotiations. Don't put that your hopes is only in the salary. Just go with an open mind. And also for the people who have been given the opportunity to listen to the people, don't just say no without even reasoning. You know, when you have a manager who is not logical, that they are looking at you like you have come with all your problems and now you want to dump them to me. The moment they see you, they see problems. They don't see a person with issues that can be resolved, then it's dead on arrival. But when you have been given the chance, and this is where now emotional intelligence comes in. I usually tell companies when I visit that don't just appoint a manager for the sake of managing. Appoint them and teach them about emotional intelligence. How do they manage themselves and how do they manage the other people? Because the other person also needs to be treated in a fair manner. So listen to the person, comprehend what they are going through, and then come up with solutions, both of you. I think it's a win-win solution from here. Yeah.
And maybe from an employee's point of view, you know, Bobby really opened up last time and she talked about where she was coming from. But Bobby, I really need you to expound on that. Talk about when did this toxicity begin and how long were you there, even with the toxic environment? Did you know that you were going to leave? How long did it take you to leave? Did you have a plan B? Did you have a plan D? Or did you just wake up and decide enough is enough? It's just time to go. I need to bounce. I can't take this anymore.
Enough is enough. Okay, so the first time, okay, the easy places zenye zinakwanga red flags. I think you kind of know of it even before you settle, because I could see the disparity even within the employees. You can see they're stressed. Okay, when I don't know if I should focus on that place or just speak generally. Let me just speak generally. The last show, my mom told me, you know, you love opening up so much. People can see.
And it's okay.
Yeah. She told me, I've just talked to Ken so that you can move on from the bitterness. Ken invited you for a conversation, so I'll take you up on that. But something that should have been a red flag immediately, like, was the disparity amongst the employees. These people were sad and miserable, and they had nothing to say about the company. They had nothing nice to say. You know, sometimes you can say, okay, tunatitiwa vibaya, lakini at least kuna kalanch, ama tunalipwa vibaya, at least, you know, something. There should be at least one thing that's positive about. And if it's one person, two people complaining, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, a stretch. But like, if it's everyone is miserable from the top to the bottom. There's not one person who has it. Yani everyone is trying to almost watch at a could exit, escape. Everyone was looking for a solution to leave that place. But you know, it was my first time in formal employment, and I was very optimistic. I was ready to learn whatever comes with it, the good things and the bad things. So I was really excited for the opportunity. Other than, you know, seeing the state of the employees, it's just your feeling, your fulfillment, kufeel ni kama you're listened to. I'm a very open person. I love to speak my mind. I love to say how I feel. And sometimes my personality doesn't really notice hierarchy. Sometimes I'm not able to realize, oh, this is the boss, this is, like, all of you are just normal to me. So I'm supposed to be able to communicate my feelings if I feel something. And I notice this rubs maybe people who are higher up in a bad way. They need you to notice that they are, you know, the boss and that they're the big man in this room. But for me, it's just, bro, let's get the job done. If we can make this easier without any politics, let's just get the job done. This, of course, being vocal and, you know, standing up for myself when I don't agree with something, you start to notice they're like, kasichana ni kierere. And then just being sidelined, you know, not being chosen for stuff, not being picked for stuff. At first, it didn't really bother me because I wasn't coming here to stay forever and make this my life. But, you know, when you're part of a community and you're being sidelined, you definitely start to notice something is amiss, something is weird. Especially when you're the person who speaks up on people's rights, speaks up. Yani, I can't shut up. I have tried. Even my mom tells me, jaribu tu, najua ukienda huko jaribu tu. But I can't see someone being oppressed or someone being treated badly and I just sit and
keep quiet.
Even if my job is like at stake, I'd rather just open up. And if other people are being treated badly, then that's not a space I want to stay as well. For a salary. Jukama ni yeye, mi ndo next. Nisipo speak up, nisisi wote tuta suffer at the end of the day. So just small things like that are things that I started to notice. There was no space for, you know, open communication. I love working with people I can talk to. I can tell how I feel. Because also when we understand each other's feelings and emotions, then we're able to, maybe today I'm moody, and someone else can take up my work. It looks like a stupid excuse. Oh, why can you be moody? Maybe the Gen Zs understand what I'm saying, Auntie. Oh, you're too moody to work. Yeah. Sometimes I just want to sit and do nothing. But if we have open communication and there's, you know, great workflow and we can talk to each other about. Sometimes there's people within the workspace who are maybe pregnant. They become a bit slower, especially when they're nearing the end of, you know, their pregnancy. So if there's no proper communication, how are you guys going to be in tandem with the work? If you don't know QT needs assistance today, she's going to come in at 9 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. How are we going to work around that if there's no space for communication? So small things like that. The thing that made me, I told you I didn't leave, I was left. I was told I was told they will not be renewing my contract. But by this time, I had been telling myself for the last 1 year. I told you I used to complain every day to CJ. So I had been telling myself, I need to leave, I need to leave. I think this prepared me a lot mentally because it put me in a space where I was ready to leave in case of anything. In case I had to leave impromptu or they were gonna let me go, I had already been preparing myself mentally. Not to the point of acceptance, because it still hurt my feelings even the day that I was told that, you know, I have to leave even though I wanted to go. But just putting the idea in my mind and knowing, you know, I'll be fine no matter what. Having a very strong support system, I have exemplary community. The people around me, yani, sijui niseme nini, na ni nini tu mnajua kenye nasema. The people around me are, I don't know, if I didn't have those people at that time, I would have failed because everyone really showed up for me. Everyone, just even prayers, support, words of encouragement. Because when you're in a toxic space, whether it's a relationship or within the workspace, that environment kind of starts to eat at your self-esteem, makes you feel like you're not good for anything, you can never be anything, you cannot amount to anything. And they kind of put this notion in your head that even if you leave, where are you gonna go? Who is going to accept you? Who is going to pick you? Who is going to want you? So I was in that mental space at that time. And you start to feel like, you start to believe it because this is something that they put upon you and you start to feel like, oh, they're right, I'm not going to get anything else. But I'd like people to shift their mindsets from that, because the moment you're in a space where you feel like you're in a hole that you can't come out of, you're going to fail. You have to think, the world is big, the world is abundant. When I leave this place, I'm going to get much more opportunities. There are spaces, there are jobs, there are ideas, there are businesses, there are partnerships, there's so many things you can do. Don't think like this is the only thing. And this goes for even people who are secure in their employment. Even the people who are pensionable and they have all the benefits, remove it from your head that, tulisema last time, you're replaceable. Yep. Anything can happen.
True.
At any time. So this conversation is not just for the people who are stressed and want to leave, even the people who are happy. You need to remember that choosing yourself sometimes is the most important thing. Venye CJ amesema. You need to be alive for the next job. So if you ukimalizika saizi, what will you do next time? So other than having, you know, support, great support around me, when I was leaving, of course I have my own things going on the side. So that also helped. I had other streams of income that I knew how to tweak and work on. I had other ideas that I had been planning for. Even though these ideas had not really materialized and like mestatized, there are things I had in my head that helped me realize this is not the end. This job is not the end. If I live here, I can still do other things and they can still succeed amazingly. So, anza kujipanga. Kujipanga on a very personal level. Save. You know, even that 50 bob you think Save. It's just 50 bob, put it aside for a rainy day. Because I didn't have a safety net at how I'm going to pay rent. But at the beginning of that year, I had already been telling myself I need like a 6-month at least saving to be able to pay my rent, to be able to take care of everything that I needed. So I didn't have the money, but I had ideas on, you know, where I'm going to start and how to. Okay, so my point in conclusion, just to answer the question that you've asked me, think about yourself, think about your happiness, your fulfillment, your satisfaction, your peace, your mental health, your emotional regulation, because you matter more than anything. Without you, that job doesn't even matter. They will replace you tomorrow. People die and the next day there's an advert sent out for, we're looking for a communications manager. Ata before uzikwe. So start thinking about yourself, put yourself first, make sure you love yourself so much that even when your situations and environments are trying to put you down, you know that you can always get up and start back up. You don't need to be to have everything figured out. None of us has everything figured out.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Ikienda sana, we just know about maybe the next few months. But everything else, please focus on making sure that your fulfillment and satisfaction are part of the equation in everything that you're doing. And just keep working on yourself so that if anything happens, you're not starting from, negative zero. Some people, I know it's normal to have, the anxiety and the disparity of not knowing what next, how am I going to start? And people ask themselves that question a lot. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to listen?
Yeah, and
something has to happen to catalyze the next process. Sometimes you can't really know what's coming next until you jump. You don't know. And that's why my friends used to tell me, why are you still at that job? So you leave. And I'm like, where will I go? What will I do? But how will you know until you're in a position where you have nothing else? You have nowhere to go. You have no support. You have no money. You have no savings. But you have to jump. What are you going to do?
I like that. And please keep on being bold, Bobby. And I think you're even more vocal than when I met you. Yeah. And I think you've represented a lot of Gen Zs. That's what is actually happened. The trends have changed at the workplace. Everything has totally changed at the workplace. So keep on being you, Bobby. And I think we love that about you. And just coming back to you, CJ, maybe at the workplace, I'd like us to talk about the consequences. Now, let's talk about the real issues out there. You've left the workplace. You've decided this is not a good environment for me, mentally, physically, emotionally. Maybe you've reached that breaking point and now you've decided to leave. For some people, they're probably married, they're the breadwinners, or maybe not even married, but they're the breadwinners in their families. So let's talk about the financial consequences, the emotional, the mental, because if kama kijiji mzima inakutegemea, now what happens to you? What happens to them? You have children, you have a wife, you have all this. So what happens to that?
Well, generally the decision to leave is a very relative one because it depends on the responsibilities that are on somebody. So the heavier the responsibilities, the harder it is to leave. That's the fact. It's more like it's easier for a car to turn at a corner than for a trailer to. Because the trailer is very long. So when you have more people that are on board, it takes longer to make decisions because you've got to weigh these decisions against everybody else. You can't just jump out. Probably the reason why Gen Zs do what they do is they are all. It's just them. So they can decide to jump and hope that there'll be an opportunity tomorrow. Just to put a caveat on that, it's not always the case. It depends on a lot of things. I was speaking to some people the other day. I said, some of you need to stay on a job because also being self-employed is a lot of work. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Not everybody can be their own boss. So you also have to know yourself and know whether you need the environment of a job or you can go out there and hustle, as Bobby will say, So if you know you can't go and hustle, don't jump out there. And there's nothing wrong with you. Some people thrive in jobs. There's nothing wrong with you. Just know, if you're not the kind of person that will be self-motivated, driven, you cannot face challenges, just don't jump. Look for another job. Don't kill yourself because you're trying to show that you are now your own boss, you're running your own business and things like that. But for the person that has to make this decision, again, it comes back to whether they've been forced into it or they have made it voluntarily. Because when you're forced into it, sometimes it happens when you're not prepared. When you make it by yourself, you probably have weighed the options. You have thought about it. And so you may need to cut down on your expenses. Whichever way, you cut down on your expenses. You don't have to die in the rent that you are paying. Some people will not leave work because they're already paying mortgage. You may need to renegotiate some of those things. You can actually sell even the house you're paying a mortgage on because you don't kill yourself over certain commitments that you made. So these are the things you begin asking yourself, how will this change affect me? Is it going to affect my income? Do I have money enough? And sometimes, Bobby, you could even have 1 year and then it takes you 2 years to get a job. So you realize that even the very prudent thing you did of saving for 1 year, because circumstances are not always determined by you, you have done well, but then it took longer to get to the next. So you always have to have that in mind as well, that even though I have kept something for the next 6 to 12 months, it is possible that it may take longer. So you become realistic. You have to look at what changes are going to happen and then become realistic and then begin to become very practical about what you need to do. If I am in a space I've saved for maybe 6 months or something, what if an emergency comes? Because an emergency can wipe out your savings in 2 or 3 days. So what do I need to begin doing? And the most prudent thing usually is cut down on your expenses. If you're single, if you're alone, and it is possible, Bobby, talk to QT. Say, can I come and be with you for a while? You have not failed. We have to also have grace for people who are making transitions and make people feel they can come to us for a while, rebuild themselves. You know, the snakes will go into the cave and shed off skin. The eagle will fly up onto a high rock after 40 years and then has to change its wings for it to survive again. If it doesn't go through that renewal, it most probably will die. And most animals go through renewal processes. We have to let people go through the renewal and not make them feel like they failed or things didn't work and remove the shame from them. So if she can come and be with you for 3, 4, 5 months and be working towards something. I'm not talking about those people who come in and then now they're not doing anything. They're depressed. You leave them in the morning, they're watching Netflix the whole day in the evening. No, I'm talking about somebody who's rebuilding themselves. That if they can find that social support so that they don't need to spend even that saving that they had, they come in and begin to rebuild themselves, and when they're on their feet again, they can move on, and maybe they'll do that to somebody else. If we had that culture, more people will deal with transitions in a better way. Now, I know that there are those who normally struggle to, scale down because maybe they had furnished this 3-bedroom house, so they don't know where to take their stuff, and they don't know how to start in a 1-bedroom or a single room. Listen, it's only for a while. It's only for a while. You didn't start off with where you are. And if you were ever able to pick up from where you used to be before, you can pick up again. So don't try to keep a public image while you have private suffering.
True.
Be very practical about what you need to do. If it means that you've got to get out of the city a bit, get off. But look for other opportunities, as Bobby said, remote opportunities. What can you do in the meantime? Look for things that may not be at the level that you were at before. Maybe you lost a job that was paying you 100K and you're not getting a job of 100K, and then an opportunity comes in of 50. In the meantime, as you rebuild, while you're looking for the next, take that one for 50. And at least you're paying your bills. It's better than begging or borrowing from everybody. At least you can pay some basic bills while you're still aiming for the high one. Whenever you are threatened, you go into survival mode. And in survival mode, now you become very practical at that particular point. If you're a family person, you have to really communicate this with your partner and even with your children. You have to communicate this and let them know, look, I lost the job. There are people who are married to people who lost jobs and they still don't know, because the person keeps acting like they're going to work every day. I know. Because they don't know, right? They don't know how their spouse will take it. The ego thing is eating them up. But this is the person you live with, and they will feel this the most. And somehow they'll begin to feel it. So they think you're either spending that money badly, or you're misusing it, or there is another person in your life. Communicate with them. Losing or leaving a job does not always mean that you're a bad employee. It doesn't always mean you're a bad employee. And that's why sometimes we don't want to talk about that, because we feel like we have failed. How could you be the one who was released? Why are you the one who was sacked, for that matter? Why did you leave? It doesn't mean you're a bad employee. So if you can communicate this very well with your spouse, your partner, you build up that social support for yourself. And then the friends that you have. Now, we have all different kinds of friends. Make sure that you don't just have friends for going out on a Friday night. Make sure you have friends that talk about opportunities. friends that will always look out for you to ensure that you've got something to do. Sometimes people invest so much in the friends that they go out with that they don't even have friends who can build them back up. You have some friends, talk to them. Tell them this is where I am at this particular point. If you have any opportunity, please help me out. It's just how you will manage the transition. And if you're able to manage it well, you will mitigate you'll mitigate the impact and the effect of it. It's not that you will alleviate it, you will just mitigate it. Yeah.
And I like what you've said, like you can always start afresh. I mean, we can always start like it happened, yes, but I can pick up from the pieces. And I've seen people actually building themselves from zero, selling everything that they have, moving back to their parents' home or maybe to a friend's home and actually picking up. So I like that you brought that aspect up. And maybe coming to you, Ken, maybe we can talk about this at the workplace now, the toxic supervisor, the toxic employer. Now, Ken, unajua kwa hiyo pande ingine lazima pia nikulime kidogo.
I want to see Bobby work with Ken.
I know, right?
The vocal Bobby.
The vocal Bobby.
And then the HR.
The HR. I think that should come out really nice. Now we are talking now to the person that was stressing Bobby. But now let's talk about the toxic supervisor, the toxic employer now. Yeah. You know, there are those people that just generally tu maisha yao ni kufrustrate watu, kustress watu. Employer amejituma, yeye ameamka, amefika our job on time, but they never see that a good part in it. And they're always just frustrating the employee. Now, how do we deal with this supervisor? Mimi nimechorwa job, lakini kuna huyu tu supervisor mmoja tu wenyewe. Ni kama maisha yake tu aliandikwa, hiyo ndio job yake, kufrustrate watu. So how do I deal with that so that I don't end up being mentally stressed, being mentally stressed in this situation as an employee?
We've said for a fact that for you to be ready for your next employer, you must know what to leave. Some people are toxic by nature, but they also don't know it. Because that's their practice. They are used to it. They started their job on a bad note. They used to be hated from day one. You know, there are people who are generally hated and they know they are hated and they do nothing to be loved.
About it.
Yeah, because the general feeling is, I'm hated anyway, so I will continue to do my job. But it takes a lot of work for you to work in an environment where you're not appreciated. Personally, I love vocal people because vocal people is the voice of the majority. The silent majority are represented by only one vocal person. When you start, I was hoping I was in a session where I could talk to your people, the ones who everybody was unhappy in that place of job. That should have been the beginning of a new chapter in that place of work. Because it's a time for you to ask yourself, why is everybody complaining? If they are complaining about salaries, how do they know what other people earn? That tells you it's an uneven society. There is no company, and I can assure you, that will have a salary scale that pleases everybody. We've seen even our own members of parliament who earn the millions in this country complaining that they earn less. Nobody will ever come and tell you they earn enough, but at least we must be fair to people. There should be some equity and equality. This supervisor must have a supervisor somewhere. Unless we are talking of a trickle-down situation where from the top everybody is toxic. Yeah? You know, where systemic issues, I was telling you the problem with Manu is a systemic issue, not the coach or the players. Unless the system has a problem, there lies a solution somewhere. Hurt people. Some supervisors were hurt and they think that's the best way to supervise people, by shouting. You know, there are people who shout by nature and you wonder, why are you shouting? even calling your own baby, it's your child. Yeah? You don't have the softness because nature has shown you that way. There must be somewhere a heart of reason can be made to you. Sometimes somebody must bear the blunt and come out and say, I want to talk to you. Don't go to your supervisor with an attacking mentality. Because when you attack somebody, their first reaction is to defend themselves. But do you talk? Are there situations, companies that just say we are doing a team building, just to take people up, jump, bring a facilitator, jump, and have alcohol later? That's not a team building. A team building activity should be a moment of reasoning and beckoning. A company that wants to thrive must also go biblical way. Two cannot work together unless they agree. What are we agreeing to? Number one, and I said it last time, please stop treating people like they are children. Because the moment you treat me like a child, I'll either, two things, show you that I'm actually a child. Nitatoa utoto zaidi, what you think I do. Yeah. You look at companies and toxic companies are people who arrive at 7:59 and leave at 5:01. They can't give more, they don't expect. People who have, I was once in a company and I just made a joke of chambers in a company and I was told, huku kuna State House na Kosovo. State House are the executives, Kosovo are the people at the back. And even when we were making it a joke, now you go to State House and even in State House there were protocols. So not everybody was the president, others were just PAs in the State House. And you start asking yourself, where did the rain start hitting? The rain start hitting from the top. So I would urge, if you have a toxic supervisor, sit down amongst yourself. It's not a union, it's not a conversation of a solidarity for forever and placards where ni haki yetu now, but at least that someone somewhere listens to somebody else. The fish rots from the head. If the top is rotten, the entire fish will be rotten. And sometimes I also say the people who sit in the office like the one that I occupy, the human resource office, are you really bringing the H in that office? Are you human enough that people can approach you? When the human resource manager or officer is the toxic person, then that company is doomed. Because they are employed to meet the expectations of the employer only at the expense of the employees. When you have a company that has a high attrition rate, you employ people who are qualified, you employ people who are interested and they were very motivated. All of a sudden, the motivation starts going down. Of course, with this generation, we are really studying all of you because Gen Zs also, we don't know what is exciting them. Sometimes what you think is exciting them is no longer interesting. Yeah, it's not pizza anymore. It's not salary. Yeah, they don't.
Money is fine.
No, these people know how to make money, so they think life can be easier that way. Yeah, but even when you do all things that you do in the office space, you need to ask yourself, what brings you into that working space? I believe toxicity is also a cultural issue. A company that has a bad culture becomes a company with a lot of toxicity because of the induction, the assimilation that we do together with the people. Stop associating with the toxic people. Toxicity is contagious. You start listening to people who've been here for 20 years and they are telling you this company is bad. Seriously? And you've stayed here for 20 years na hii kampuni ni mbaya. Some people want to make life difficult. And unfortunately, they are the supervisors at the middle level. Sometimes the top is okay, the bottom is okay. So the executives need to come from their high offices, mingle with the people down here, listen to the people. Don't do surveys just for the sake of doing a survey. Don't go out there and you just want to talk to the same people you are talking to. Get some time and associate with the people. Talk with the janitors. The janitors know everything about companies. The guards, the cleaners, the cooks, sometimes tell them to sit down and ask them, unaendeleaje? And you will get a lot of information. And if you get information, do not shoot the messenger. Get the message, because the message is what is going to transform the company. If you do not get the message, then you're going to start forming another snitch kind of a clique. I was told by Bobby about you. Yeah, what do you know about CJ? What does CJ know about Ken? It's not about that. Don't create a circular kind of a problem. Deal with the issue, and don't deal with the leaves. sometimes you have to go down to the roots. I don't advocate for people to be fired, but if you're going to lose good people because of a bad manager. You know, we always say that sometimes not everybody leaves a good company, they leave bad managers, yeah? So if you come and realize that some of your managers are not good, there are two things you can do. Redesign their duties or make the hardest of the call. If a club is not performing in football, the easiest person to let go sometimes is always the manager. And even if the players were bad, but at least deal with the managers and the players later.
I like that. Yeah, you just had to bring the football aspect, but it's okay. Yeah. Sometimes we leave the bad managers there. So even if you change the employees over and over again, it's still going to be the same issue over and over again. And I see that we are really, really pressed for time. So I'll just give each one and you an opportunity to just your takeaway in this, Bobby, maybe in like under a minute, each of you. Twende kazi, Bobby. Ongea na James.
Hey.
You
know, I think, no, what can I say? I think it's, you know, toxic workplaces do exist, but if you take the time to work on yourself intentionally, to make sure that you're showing up 100 in every area of your life. Of course, it's not going to be 100 every day, but at least putting the intention that, you know, this is something I'm doing intentionally, so that even if it doesn't work out, you're able to walk away with the mindset that, hey, I did my best, I put my all. I have tried. Sisemi tu steps ile hata ujajaribu. Umeingia 802 ukaambiwa you are late, ukasema this place is toxic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually showing up and, you know, putting your effort and intention into everything that you do, not just the workplace. After a while, you start to see the fruits and you start to see the benefits that come with you being a very cognizant person. So make sure you care about your emotions. Make sure you care about your fulfillment, your satisfaction. When you're thinking even of the workplace, ask yourself these questions. Does this place make me feel good? Because sometimes we're just thinking, am I paying the bills? Am I making the money? Of course, this advice is relative because it won't apply the same. It won't apply the same for a man who has 7 kids and he has to actually show up for this job. But if you can tweak it and, you know, weigh your options and see what matters best, please put your best foot forward and go with that. It will always come in handy. And even while you're in secure positions and secure jobs, always stay thinking about how can I improve myself? How can I do better? Because kukosa job will hit even the best of employees. Tuliambiwa hata last time, founders are also dispensable. So please, make sure you're working on yourself so that you don't feel like you're losing everything when you're actually losing everything.
CJ, your takeaway in this in a minute? You
know, there's no workplace that is totally toxic, and there's no workplace that is totally toxic free. There are levels, you know, there's percentages, because toxicity is not the air, it's the people. Who come in and how they behave. So you'll find in every workplace, there's 1 or 2 people who act in a certain way. They may not be at the top management, they may be at the top management. So before you decide about this, ask yourself, how are you being treated? Before you define this as a toxic place, how are you being treated? If you're being disrespected, being put down, being criticized a lot, if it is affecting how you look at yourself, then that would qualify to be toxic. That is not the same as being held accountable. If you're being held accountable, that's not toxic. There's a difference, because this definition sometimes messes up. Secondly, is a place allowing you to work. Because if I employed you to do something and then I've made sure you can't work, then that's a toxic place. So you have to look at whether the environment is enabling for you to deliver what Ken put on the contract. If he has signed the contract and then goes against that very contract and makes sure you can't operate, you don't have the equipment, the support and all of that, then that may be a real big problem. Third is the element of progress, whether that place will allow you to make progress and grow. If they're doing everything to curtail your progress, then that may be a toxic place for you.
Ken, tufungie show, 30 seconds.
Yeah. For me, what I would say is, there are three things to put into perspective in the workplace: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Celebrate the good, work on the bad. But if it is ugly and it is becoming uglier daily, then you need to have a strategy to exit. But please don't also leave when you know it is you who was unable to deliver on the promise. You promised to do. Don't come and start having excuses. Excuses will kill you, and no place will help you to thrive. Until you work on yourself, every company you work for will be a bad company. So work on yourself first and find yourself and find a reason why you applied for that job. Be also fair to the employer. So even when you go and communicate out there about the toxicity levels in the companies, introspect. If it is indeed the employer, nobody will crucify you. But if the sins are yours, you need repentance. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my able panel. I feel like not really exhausted, but I feel like we've really covered that topic. And it has been a wonderful month of May, because by the time we meet you next week, it will be a new month. So we talked about toxicity within yourself, at the workplace, and also in the family. So I hope we really got you covered on that. Take care of your mental health, and also look within yourself. You could be the toxic person always. See you next time. Thank you so much, my able panel. We'll see you next week, which will be a new month. So inshallah, have a lovely Tuesday and keep it Citizen TV. Thank you.